Desmond Ridder traded to Arizona for Rondale Moore. So Desmond Ridder, not only the future, but obviously not even part of the plans at a backup level. Arizona gets themselves a backup quarterback that they can have. Rondale Moore becomes another weapon for the Falcons. This is sort of breaking. So, C-Rob, any initial reaction to this?
Well, it's bad for Clayton Tune, who I thought they liked, who was the backup last year behind Kyler and Josh Dobbs. I will say this: it gives them an option on the table for, if they get to a point with Kyler where it goes in the wrong direction. Like, it's not going in the wrong direction right now. Things are good, right? But I mean, it gives them an experienced young player to look at in practice and to go, hey, is this a guy that, potentially, if we have to move on from Kyler, do we like this young guy enough to potentially work him into our plans for the future? I'm trying to, off the top of my head, I can't tell you how many years of control are left on Desmond's deal.
Yes, he has 2024 and 2025.
So 2 years, 2 years of control. Okay, now shift over to Kyler's deal. Can you do that real quick and tell me what is the cap hit in 2 years on Kyler after the 2025 season? What's the cap hit?
And it looks like here after 2025, the following year, the cap hit jumps up to $55.5 million.
Okay, so post June 1 designation, you split that in half. By then, the salary cap will be at 280, right? So I think it potentially sets up a situation where if, let's say, you're entering the 2025 season, you're going, what's the out after the 2024 season?
33. It's 33 million, basically.
I mean, you could absorb 33 in 1 year on one cap, right? They don't. The Falcons don't have a lot of big extension players. They've gotten a lot of money off the books. You could absorb that 33 in 1 year. You could split it over 2 years, which is a very easy kind of hit to absorb. You get an entire year to look at Ridder. So you've looked at a young guy. You got a young guy who's also got starting experience. You don't have to worry about your backup not having starting experience. Plus, you get a year to look at him, and you have insurance in case there's some sort of wrong way scenario that plays out with Kyler Murray, or let's say there's another season-ending injury, right? And they're like, do we want to keep going down this road with this guy? We didn't draft him. That's 2 season-ending injuries. It's all about having flexibility, I think, at the end of the season. And there are worse things to do than to grab a young player who they might still believe has some ability.
Yeah, and Jori, that's where I would say that they also have flexibility at the wide receiver position. They can get rid of Rondale Moore and get better than Rondale where they're sitting in the draft. Even if they trade down, they can get guys that are more considered to be a better lock at a number 1 wide receiver than Rondale Moore is at this point.
And I just think so many teams view quarterbacks as not only about who's going to play, but first of all, who's going to play. Second of all, whose backup is going to be. Because remember, how many teams did we see lose their starting quarterback for the entire season last year, from the Bengals to the Jets, and it goes on and on. And when you have these backup quarterbacks, and I mean, I was talking to a GM during that time who I believe he was saying that backup quarterback for them was a top 20 position on the 53-man roster, if I have that correctly. It was at least 20, if not higher. Of like, forget the fact that you have 22 guys and you need all these receivers, you need all these DBs. Like, backup quarterback is important. And if Desmond Ridder, they believe, is an upgrade, then that is relevant. And also an asset in terms of developing. I mean, think about what the Patriots once did with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, if you can have a quarterback play well, whether or not you can use him in-house, it doesn't really matter. Like, you are going to have value out of that. I also think it's worth noting that when the Cardinals got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, they had 22 million dead cap or so, I believe, 22.6. And they took that. It was fine. You moved on. The cap is growing. And the last thing I'll say on that is that, like, think about this. Okay, 33 million dead cap, which, by the way, right now, it doesn't seem like you're going to need it. Kyler is healthy and playing well at the moment. So this is more an if than a we are at that point. Though Broncos, might I remind you, are taking an $85 million dead cap. That is like 2.5, nearly 3 times as much as it. So 33 million is not much. So I just think this gives you so much flexibility for starter, backup quarterback, and assets.
Also suggestive, I would say, that maybe the Cardinals feel like maybe they're a team to contend for the playoffs this year. Because typically when you see teams seek out a veteran backup, it's because they're sitting there going, we don't want to be stuck in a bad situation. We have a good team. Let's not be the Jets and have to plug in Zach Wilson and watch the entire season get flushed. Let's not be the Rams who, when Matt Stafford goes down, we're kind of like, oh man, we didn't prepare enough. And, the rookie that we drafted isn't even in the building. And I think Indy's like a good example of that, right? Richardson goes down, Gardner Minshew steps in, and you saw they were competitive over the course of the season. So maybe the Cardinals are sitting there going, guess what? We're going to be competitive a team this year. Maybe you don't expect a lot of us, but we're going to have a full year of Kyler. Maybe we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. on the roster or whoever else that we get in the top 10. They feel good about themselves right now.